everyone, and welcome to Stan the Wine Man TV. I am your host, Stan Rattan, and this is the Blue Collar Wine Show, where I try to help you spend your wine dollars wisely. And we are celebrating Washington Wine Month. Throughout this the month of August, we will be doing a ton of Washington wines, reviewing them. And I'm excited today because I'm going to review 3 wines from one of my favorite appellations in Washington State. Now, I know Walla Walla gets a ton of exposure. Everybody thinks Walla Walla is the best, and Walla Walla does make some fantastic wines. Do not get me wrong. I love them myself. But one of my favorite, and I think some of the best wines ever, come out of Red Mountain, a very small appellation. I think there's only like 1,100 acres, vineyard acres planted. The whole, it's not really even a mountain. I think it's the highest it gets is 1,500 feet. Is only 4,040 acres, but only 1,100 vineyard acres planted, so it's pretty tiny, and it's a sub-appellation of Yakima Valley. It's funny because it's not really red, and it's not really a mountain, but they call it Red Mountain. I think it's called the cheat grass or something like that, and the spring kind of gives it a red hue. But basically, they only get like 5 inches of rain, so it's very desert-like conditions, so they have to irrigate in order to grow Cab Merlot, Cab Franc. They grow some Sangiovese, Malbec up there. A lot of Syrah, from some very awesome Syrah come from Red Mountain. So we're going to focus just on Red Mountain today. And I talked about the diversity of wines that can come out of Washington State, so I'm kind of excited to try the Côte de Ciel Petit Verdot from Ciel du Cheval Vineyard in Red Mountain. This 2012 classic vintage. This rolls in. Now these are not inexpensive wines. I'll tell you that much right off the bat. But they are, at least most of the Red Mountain wines that I've tried are very good. So you know, sometimes when you want to spring a little bit for a wine, you know, this one's $40. So we're not talking small change. But it's a Petit Verdot, and as you know, Petit Verdot is one of the 5 grapes of Bordeaux, and you know, you see it, a lot of it out of California as a varietal. You don't see a lot of it, but really inky black fruit. I mean, I wish I could show you. I just wish I had a white page, but I don't. Anyway, really dark, almost violet in color. Incredible. I have not tasted a wine from this vineyard. It's 100% Petit Verdot. Kind of crazy. So Ciel du Cheval is a classic vineyard out of Red Mountain. You also have Clipson Vineyard, which is really huge. Kiona Vineyard. You also have, let's see, I wrote a couple of them down. Taptile. Yeah, Taptile is also a very classic vineyard. You'll hear these names a lot, but Ciel du Cheval is one that you'll see a lot of, because a lot of winemakers that buy their fruit from Red Mountain will get Ciel du Cheval fruit. It's very coveted. And the interesting thing, one of the things I like about Red Mountain, I really never be able to put my finger on exactly what it is, but there's a certain quality about these wines that's very distinct. And it's probably a minerality quality. It's sandy, loamy soil with a little bit of gravel, high pH, you know, those sort of things, a lot of alkaline, so it's high pH. It has a distinct quality, and the more Red Mountain wines that you drink, you notice those things in those wines. So let's see what we get on the nose with this one. Very excited about this. A little bit of coffee bean, which is kind of cool. Cherries, a little bit of raspberry, cherry, coffee bean. Very cool. Very nice aromatics. I get a little bit of tobacco. This is popping. I'm curious what the alcohol content is, because, you know, it's burning my nose just a skosh. 15% alcohol, 15.8 maybe, yeah. Anyway, very hot up there. So, you know, they get riper fruit, which is a good thing for some people, not everybody. But what I like about Red Mountain is, even though it's hot and you get a lot of this, sometimes higher alcohol, very balanced wines, at least the ones I've experienced. Getting a little bit of like a rose petal thing going on too. Let's see what we get on the palate. Very excited about this. Oh, That's a wow wine. Almost chewy, but the tannins aren't like super intense. They get a little wind up there, so they get that, the tannins can be higher. But this is very, very dense wine. Very structured. Almost a little tight, but there's good fruit. I get tobacco, I get the black raspberry, I get cherries all day. Yeah, and a lot of spice, like a lot of white pepper notes coming through on right all the way through, right after the initial hit on the palate, then they start coming through on the mid palate into the finish. The alcohol is definitely there. You get it. Long, long, delicious finish. A little bit of grip on the back end. My oh my. My oh my. What a great bottle of wine for 40 bucks. Wow. And that rose petal kind of blended. It's kind of like somebody whipped up some rose petal, you know, threw in just a little bit of beef jerky, red raspberries and cherries, and just whipped it all up with a little tobacco. You get the idea. Very intense. This thing will lay down easily 10 to 15 years. Easily. Good fruit now. Very drinkable now. You can enjoy it now. That you would have to have some like pot roast or hearty steak, grilled meats. You need something. But being the kind of guy that I am, I could drink it all by itself. It's a little tight, a little wound up. Love this wine. I'm going to go A+. A+. Now you won't get that out of me very often, but this is a well-made wine. I know it's a little hot. Don't get me wrong, I understand that. But give it another 5 to 8 years and that alcohol will integrate with the fruit a little bit better. It's going to be a big ass wine. It already is, but it is going to develop nicely. I don't know how I know that. I mean, you know, it's what I'm saying is, that for some reason, I don't understand why, but I have a knack for figuring out how wines will age, and I know a lot of wine critics out there do it very well, some not so much, but anyway, it's just something that you understand with structure, fruit, acid, all those things, and it's interesting. I just had a discussion with, shout out to Sean Sullivan, Washington Wine Report, also the Washington Wine Critic for Wine Enthusiasts, about higher pH wines, and a lot of people debate whether those will age well. I have no problem with this aging well. 2012 vintage classic wine, A+. Let's move on. Boy, that one's a hard act to follow. So, Lucchini Vineyards out of Woodinville, Washington, they have an address on here. It's Carlton, Oregon. This is actually a Red Mountain Cabernet Sauvignon, so I thought I'd include that. Ron Lucchini actually lives in Woodinville, but he does a lot of Pinot out of Oregon. But this is a 2012, another 12, Red Mountain Cabernet Sauvignon, Puro Sangue or Sangue. Has some really cool picture on it. I'm totally butchering that. La Bestia. This rolls in at $45. A lot of great cabs come out of Red Mountain. Shouldn't even try to say that little name underneath. Okay, let's move on. Let's see what we get on the nose. I like Ron Lucchini. He's a cool guy, very intense. The guy's super intense. But he's worked hard on his winery. He does some great classic Pinots. I've never tried his cab. I'm excited to give it a try. Almost like meat marinated, currants. I mean, this has currants all day. Like liquefied currants with a little bit of tobacco thrown in. Definitely like a, an unsweetened chocolate and a little bit of red flowers. But there's definitely that barbecue spice sort of thing on the backside of this wine. Kind of makes it cool. I always like that. Since we're on to alcohol, I mean 15.1 again, just to kind of show you the point. This is a hot area, one of the hottest growing regions in Washington State. So, you know, and they like to ripen the fruit there to get the best out of it. This is like intense, like a brooding nose, like, you know, like it's just waiting to just punch you right in the palate. Let's give it a whirl. That's powerful cab. That is powerful. Powerful cab. Almost too much for my palate. Ripe black currants. That classic Red Mountain minerality, white pepper, seems to be the theme right now. White pepper all day. The barbecue spices come through on the back end, right underneath. It's like a backbone of barbecue spice underneath the ripe currants. Good structure on this wine. This is intense. This is one of those wines, like, you know, it reminds me a little bit of one of those really ripe Napa Valley cabs. And really solid, grippy, almost like somebody scrubbed your gums with sandpaper on the finish. This is a baby. This is by far, I would say this is absolutely a baby and needs at least 5 more years in the bottle to really settle out and integrate. It's a big, powerful cab. I mean, this is an animal. This is a monster of a cab. 45 bucks. There's a lot of you out there, out there are going to love this cab. You're going to love it. You're going to dig it. You're going to love it because it's big, powerful, bold cab. I'm going to go A-. I think it's a little over the top for a cab, but it's very good. A- is hardly a bad grade to get. I know a lot of kids that would love to get A- all through school. Just a little too much. I'd really like to try this in another 5 years. It might go to an AA plus wine in 5 years. It is powerful. I know I carried it at the store. It's like I said, this is like a 90% cab. 90% of you are going to like this. If you like Old World, if you love Old World wines, you are not going to like it. But if you're in the New World, big, opulent, gorgeous, you know, cabs, you know, you're going to love this wine. Kind of like a supermodel. You know, it's just there. It's got it all. A little leather coming through on the backside. Good wine. Good wine. Excellent job, Ron Lucchini. Now let's move on. This guy, we tasted the Sustain wines on the last episode. By the way, we're on episode 226, which is kind of funny because the grocery store I worked at when I was a store manager there, grocery manager, did all the stuff that you do. Now I'm the vice manager. Wine, spirits, beer, and cigars. So I call myself the vice manager. 226 was our store number for our supplier. Episode 226 is here. Now we're going to move on to the guy who was part of the Sustain wines in my last episode. Wasn't thrilled about the Merlot, but I love Mark Ryan McNeely. This is Mark Ryan Winery, Long Haul, 2011, Red Mountain. This is a blend of 76% Merlot, 13% Cab Franc, 10% Cabernet Sauvignon, and 1% Petit Verdot. Mark McNeely loves Red Mountain fruit. This rolls in at $50. Not chump change. But when you think about some of these cabs that people line in, Bryant Family, Screaming Eagle, I'm losing it. Harlan Estate, some of these big wineries that are in Cali where they're asking, I mean, like $400 a bottle. $50 is chump change with some of the quality you're getting out of Red Mountain. Let's see what we get on the nose. Now this has that classic kind of Red Mountain minerality, earth thing that comes through on the nose. I have trouble putting my finger on it. If you taste enough of them, you'll get what I mean. A little bit of stink, kind of combined with the fruit. It's not stinky, not like sewers, not like poopy stinky, but it just has like kind of like an old leather kind of stink thing going on, like a wet old leather. Get a lot of violets. Currants, a little bit of plum action coming through on this one. Yeah, I can remember Mark McNeely when he was schlepping wine for another winery. He kind of learned the ropes by working for other wineries. Started his own winery. Used to self-distribute. I mean, he's a hard worker, and he succeeded. He's one of those garage winemakers that has really done well, and his wines just fly off the shelf. I get some of his wines just boom, get them in, boom, they're gone. One of the best cabs I've ever had, Lonely Heart cab from Mark Ryan Winery. Unbelievable stuff. I think it rolls in about $78. Get a little bark thing going on, and that earthy, that kind of that Red Mountain earth. Red Mountain minerality, that Red Mountain earth is coming through. Let's see what we get on the palate. I'll have to admit that Long Haul is one of my favorite blends. This comes from the 11 vintage, which was a little bit challenging for winemakers, but a lot of winemakers like that. They like the challenge, they like to be able to work with the fruit, do what they want with it, and this is a beauty. I mean, it's got that kind of bark, earth, red cherries, plum, tobacco, all that stuff, very balanced, front to back, very polished, but still has that structure, that attitude. You know, it's like, you know, that beautiful bowling ball that just has a couple of nicks on it, right, guys? You know. Anyway, I don't know else how to describe it. Just that kind of polished yet attitude sort of thing going on. Excellent structure, front to back. A little bit of white pepper. Must be something out of Red Mountain. This isn't nearly as alcohol driven as the last two. I don't know if I can find the alcohol. I always hate doing this to you guys because I know 14.9, so it's down a little bit. But nice structure, good acidity, which is what I like about this wine quite a bit. When you're looking at wines that'll age like the Petit Verdot, you're looking at acid, fruit, tannins, kind of how they integrate together. You know, acid is a key component to aging wines. If you didn't know that, if you're always wondering, how do these guys know these wines are going to age? They have to have acidity. That acidity is important and critical in wine aging. And this one has good acid. It's got a freshness on the finish that you will taste as you drink it. And it's great food wine, but also, you know, I could definitely, on a cooler summer night, middle of winter, fall, I could drink this wine by itself easily. Yeah, right at the end it just says, okay, I'm serious here. I'm going to age. You can put this, I'm going to say 10 to 15 years on this long haul easily. This Bordeaux style blend, predominantly Merlot, which, by the way, for you anti-Merlot guys, you like that anti-Merlot people, Petrus, Right Bank, Bordeaux, big time wine, everybody has to have it, is all Merlot. So, get off that anti-Merlot bandwagon and join the crowd of wine drinkers who enjoy all wines. Thanks for watching. I hope you seek out Red Mountain Wines. And remember, wine is not a mystery. It is just fermenting grape juice. Drink it. Enjoy it. Have fun with it. Try new things. Always be willing to try new things. Don't get stuck. Please, please, please don't get stuck on Pinot Grigio. Enough said. But never, ever let anybody, including me, if you like Pinot Grigio, good for you. That's important. It's your palate. And never let anybody tell you what you should or shouldn't like. Nothing wrong with Pinot Grigio, by the way. If we do that together, we can take the snob out of wine.